lack of wind, but abundance of air. We're all in the same ship. Tell me why you're dirty out of the promise.
Hello everyone and welcome back to the Ryan Retro channel. In today's video I'm going to fix your Retroid Pocket 6 sound and make it sound far better than the stock configuration. So what we need to do is navigate to the website listed in the description below, which will take you to the GitHub for the O2P Tweaks app. This is made for the Odin 2 portal, but it will work here as well. So let's scroll down, and on the right side of the screen you'll see releases. Tap the latest one, 0.3, come down to where it says Assets, and you just want to click the APK file here. It will ask you if you want to download it. I've already downloaded it, so it's asking me if I want to download it again. Just click download, and then when it's ready, you can click open. You then need to install the app, so hit install. It will only take a second, and then you can hit open. We now need to allow some notifications for this, so I'm going to allow. It will tell you the Retroid Pocket 6 is not supported, but don't worry, it works fine. So we just need to hit confirm here. And now we are in the app. Hit the three lines at the top left of the screen and go to where it says tweaks. We then want to scroll down just a little bit until we see JamesDSP. And we're going to hit the Install JamesDSP Manager button here. We now need to give this app, O2P Tweaks, permission to install another app. So we're going to hit Settings, and we're going to check this box, Allow from Source. We're now able to install the JamesDSP app, so let's hit Install. And let's now open that second app. Once again, we need to allow some notifications and other permissions, so let's hit allow. And here we are in the JamesDSP app. First of all, we have a limiter that lets us control the volume. If yours is set differently to mine, you're going to want to set the first option to -0.1 dB, which is just all the way to the right. You're going to also want to put the second option to all the way to the right, 500 milliseconds. And the third option is going to be your volume, and we're going to play around with this in a little bit. So don't really worry about where that is yet. The magic of this is going to be the EQ. So scroll down a little bit, and there's actually two equalizers in this app. You have the Multimodal Equalizer and the Arbitrary Response Equalizer. If we enable the Multimodal Equalizer, this one's quite simple. When we tap on the graph here, we're then able to change the graph however we wish by drawing shapes on it, grabbing bands and moving them up and down. If you have any experience with an equalizer, this will be quite easy for you to understand. If you don't have any experience with an equalizer, you can listen to some music and begin by tapping the presets along the bottom. Once you get one that sounds quite good to your ears, you can then start playing around with the individual bands. The best way to do this is listen to some music, put your finger on one of the bands, and just start moving it up and down. It's even better if you close your eyes while you're doing this, because sometimes your brain can trick you and think, oh, that looks a bit too high, or that looks a bit too low, when you may not even really know what that means. So just put your finger on one, close your eyes, and see how it adjusts the sound when you move it up and down to its extremities. Then you can find a place that feels right for you. For the Retroid Pocket 6, I like to make a kind of two camel hump shape, so something like this. If you set it to something like this, it will sound pretty good, and from there you can make your own setting. But this is not the EQ I'm going to be using today, because I want to get more granular. So I'm going to disable the Multimodal Equalizer, and I'm instead going to look at the next one, the Arbitrary Response Equalizer. This is the one that we used with the Retroid Pocket 5 if you saw my guide back then. So once again, tap on the graph. Now this one is a lot more complicated to use because you need to add bands by inputting numbers. So it's not quite as intuitive as just grabbing and dragging around. You need to type in the frequency you want and then type in the decibel. It's not really very user-friendly. What you could do is use the one provided last year for the Retroid Pocket 5, but that one doesn't sound very good. So what I did instead was use a different EQ app, find the settings I like, and then just copy them over here. So I went to the Play Store and downloaded a music app that has a built-in EQ. I chose Poweramp Music Player because that's generally the highest regarded one. I played a range of songs in here. I do quite like Gregory Porter because he has a boomy, bassy voice, so that's quite good for sorting out the low end. And I also played some game music and other things. To set up your own sound, all you have to do is play the music, then press this second button at the bottom that looks like a kind of bar graph, And then here you have a nice equalizer that's really simple and easy to use. Once again, just while you're listening, play around with it until you get something you like the sound of. We also have presets once again to get you in the right zone. If we hit the preset button here, disable parametric, user, and built-in. So you're only looking at AutoEQ graphic presets, as that's what we're working with in our app. Listen to your music and simply just tap on all the different things on the list here until you get something that's in the ballpark. This is what I did for mine. If you find one you really like the sound of and you just want to settle on that one, these presets are also available in the JamesDSP app. So here I like the sound of the One More Fit SE S30 Hype the Sonics Graz RA0045 in-ear headphones. Let's say I like the sound of that one. I can find this in the JamesDSP app and apply it right away. So coming back into the JamesDSP app, the Arbitrary Response Equalizer, tap on the graph, we have AutoEQ profiles up here. And then I can search for the ones I liked, so the SE S30. And there it is, the One More Fit SE S30. And by tapping on it, it's now applied inside the app. And this will apply to anything I listen to on my Retroid Pocket 6. So now when I toggle on and off the power button here, you will hear it change with that EQ setting. What I did was after I found a setting that I quite liked, I then tapped the three dots here and I unlocked the EQ. So by default, this will be locked. You just need to unlock it. And now you're free to play around with it even more. Then I listened to the song and once again, just played around with each band until it was in an area that I thought sounded pretty good. Then once you've done that, it's just a case of transferring these values over to JamesDSP. Now these are not the values that I used, this is just an example of how you can make your own. Looking at the values, we have 31 Hz is boosted by 5.8 dB, 1K has a minus 1.2 dB, and 16K has plus 5.8, etc, etc. Just so you know, on little speakers like this, the extreme ends are not really going to do anything. Anything below about 100 is not even going to really be heard. Anything as high as something like 16K is also not really going to make much of a difference. You want to focus more in the middle. So once you've got all these settings how you like, how do you then put them into the app? Well, it's a little bit complicated looking. Tap on the graph, and then you need to input them one by one. So if, for example, we're saying 16K is minus 5.9 decibels, we're going to click up here where it says add, write our Hertz as 16,000, and then a value of minus 5.9. That will update the graph. You can also edit the whole thing at once as a string. Now this is going to look pretty mad, but let's just break it down and make it easy. I'll reset my graph and add only a couple of settings. Let's say plus 1 dB at 100 Hertz and minus 3 dB at 500 Hertz. Now when we look at that string, you're going to see how it works. It says GraphicEQ colon, then it has the frequency 100 Hertz, and then how much you're boosting or reducing it by. So in this case, it's plus 1 dB. We then have a semicolon and your next value. So this is going to be a value of 500 Hertz and subtracting 3 decibels. And then once again, a semicolon. So what we can do is put all of our EQ values in like this, but rather than writing it all out by ourselves, we can be lazy. So what I did was use an AI like Gemini to just write it out for me. I just took a screenshot of the EQ, opened it in the gallery, cropped it just down to those values. So we're just seeing the frequencies and the decibels, saved it. We then need to tell Gemini what we want to do with it. So we need to get a basic boilerplate GraphicEQ string. You can use the ones I provided in the description below, or we could just hit AutoEQ profiles, type anything whatsoever, tap anything. All we want is to populate this string like this. So we're going to select all of this. So don't even worry what this says. This is just a template. Let's just cut that, go to Gemini or ChatGPT, whatever you use, paste that string, upload the photo we just cropped. So now we have our picture attached of how we want the settings to be, and this just random string here as an example to show our AI friend. And we're just going to write something like, update this EQ string using the values in the picture provided. And just like that, the AI will give you your updated GraphicEQ string here, which you can easily just copy. And then we're going to paste it in the JamesDSP app. So let's come back to the Arbitrary Response Equalizer, tap on the graph. Let's first reset everything. Now click Edit as String, and we're going to paste that in here. Now be aware it already says GraphicEQ, so if we were to just paste it on the end, it would say GraphicEQ twice, and it wouldn't work. We need to first delete everything out of here, and then we can paste in that string we just put together, like this. Check that it says GraphicEQ at the beginning and has a semicolon at the end. Here the AI seems to have forgotten the semicolon, so make sure it ends with a semicolon, begins with the letter G, no spaces on either end, and then it should be recognized. Hit done, hit OK, and you'll see the graph change immediately, and that's how you'll know that it's been recognized properly. If the graph stays flat, it's not worked. So go back into edit string, check there are no spaces at the beginning or end, and you haven't written GraphicEQ twice, and you should have a nice updated string. So that's how you can make your own settings. I'm now going to show you my own settings that I worked on myself. It's by no means perfect. I still want to improve it more, but I'm happy enough with how it sounds. So I'm going to reset this once again, hit edit string, delete the text that's in there already, and I'm now going to paste in the settings that I put in the description below, hit done, hit OK, and you'll see that my settings are kind of this sweeping mountains. There is one issue with my settings, is that it brings all of the volume down quite a bit. It does get a bit quiet, so that's something I would like to improve, but I found that if I lifted everything up, it started to distort the speakers a little bit. So I would personally prefer no distortion and just a little bit quieter, but feel free to edit this however you wish, and let me know in the comments below if you find a better setting. When it comes to the volume here, I'm going to just play back some music, turn my EQ settings on and off, and I'm going to try and set the volume so that there's no real change in volume. I want it to stay basically the same volume with or without my settings. So we're going to play that lovely Sonic the Hedgehog theme. By the way, you may have noticed I'm using the built-in music app for this and not Poweramp anymore. That's because Poweramp has its own EQ setting. You can turn it off, but I often forget to. So then I have Poweramp's EQ and my EQ both fighting each other, and it gets really messy. So when I'm sculpting my own sound, I use Poweramp to get the setting that I want. And then once I've got my sound, I use the regular built-in music app, which doesn't have any kind of EQ whatsoever. So all of the EQ is coming from my setting here inside JamesDSP. So if you'd like to use my setting, feel free to copy and paste my string from the description below up in here where it says edit a string. Once again, it's not the most perfect setting in the world, but after tinkering with it for the past few days, this is the happiest I've been with the Retroid Pocket 6 so far. Now, just to address some questions that I know will be asked in the comments below. Does it work with earphones? Yes, it does. This does work with earphones. But that being said, it's specifically been made for these speakers, and you might find that it sounds even worse than just the regular settings for headphones. I'll just demonstrate the sound with a speaker. Now this is a really rubbish speaker, but I just want to prove that it does work through the headphone jack. This is a system-wide EQ, so it works on everything, whether you're using the speakers, whether you're using the headphone jack. It even works with the USB-C port in docked mode, which I didn't expect. I had this docked playing some PlayStation Vita games, and when enabling or disabling the EQ, it does change the sound even through my TV speakers. Now, like I said, the EQ that I made here was specifically made for these speakers in the Retroid Pocket 6, which are a bit rubbish. So if you have better speakers, this EQ that I made might not be very good. In fact, it'll almost definitely be pretty bad. So what I would suggest in that case, if you're someone who sometimes uses the speakers and sometimes uses this in another way, like say docked to a TV or with headphones, I would suggest you then take this opportunity to use the multimodal equalizer as a secondary EQ. So use the EQ I've provided you for when you use the speakers, and when you want to use another device, turn off Arbitrary Response Equalizer and turn on Multimodal Equalizer, and here you've got a really simple little secondary EQ. So play the sound through your headphones or your speakers and set this up in a way that you like. For example, let's just say that you really want to smash the bass and save that there. Then all that means is whenever you want to use your headphones, you just turn on the multimodal equalizer and turn off the arbitrary response equalizer. Then when you want to switch back to the speakers, you just flip them around. So turn this one off and that one on. And now you're in speaker mode. That way you'll have two distinctly different EQ sounds. If you find yourself turning the JamesDSP EQ on and off all the time, like I do when I'm testing things, you'll want to add this to your top bar as well. So up here where you have all your quick settings, you can add JamesDSP right here. To do that, you need to tap the little pencil icon, which is how you can now change around everything up here. JamesDSP will likely be near the bottom as you only just installed it. You want to tap and hold on it and drag it up. I bring it all the way to the top so it's on my first page, right there. Then you can hit the back button to save things. And now, as you can see, it's right there. So you can tap it and turn it on and off anytime, whenever you want to engage or disengage the EQ. If you're someone who perhaps likes the sound without EQ when you're using headphones and wants to use the EQ I made for the speakers, this means whenever you want to switch between using the speakers and the headphone jack, you just need to tap that one button. So that's really simple. If I could actually tap the button, there we go. Oh, using a handheld while looking at a camera monitor and not at the handheld itself is actually quite tricky. So those are my settings for the Retroid Pocket 6 speakers. Please let me know what you think of it in the description below. I really hope it's helpful for you guys. I've been working on this little EQ graph for days. Please give me a like and subscribe if you haven't already. If you'd like to buy your own Retroid Pocket 6 and make it sound glorious like this, please consider using my affiliate link in the description below to the official Retroid store. And I'm sure it won't be long before we're saying hello again.